Greetings, adventurers! I'm Max, the Master of Dungeons. You're watching Once Upon a Tabletop, where I talk about all the cool stuff from the latest edition of Dungeons & Dragons, as well as answer questions from gamers new and old. Last week, we took a step-by-step look at how to create a brand new character in the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. This week, we're going to go over how to fill out your Dungeons & Dragons character sheet. The character sheet isn't just one page of information, it's actually a 3-page document that contains everything you need to know about your character. Everything from how much money they've got in their coin purse, to whether they're a male, female, how many languages they speak, what color their hair is. Everything you could possibly know about your character is going to be contained within this character sheet. It's rather complex, so we're going to break it down page by page and piece by piece. So let's get started. Now during gameplay, the page you're probably going to look at the most is page number 1, because page number 1 contains most of the relevant information about your character. First thing that you're going to fill out on page 1 is going to be right up in that top section, and that's going to be your character's name. Keep in mind that either back in the player's handbook or the basic rules, you can find a list of common names specific to your race within the Dungeons & Dragons universe. You can either pick one of those names to use, take one and kind of modify it a little bit to come up with something a little bit different, or create something completely unique to you that's never been done before, like Gondorfluffin McFugglebutt. Next, you're going to fill out your class, level, new character start at level 1. Then you're going to fill out your race and your background. Now, all of those were covered in last week's video, so I'm going to move on and talk about something that wasn't covered. Alignment is kind of where you stand on the spectrum of good and evil. There are 9 different alignments: lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, lawful neutral, neutral, chaotic neutral, lawful evil, neutral evil, chaotic evil. The only alignments that you cannot be in the Adventurers League are either neutral evil or chaotic evil. You can only be lawful evil if you're a member of a certain faction, which we'll talk about more when we get on to page 2. So that's alignment. The next thing to fill out will be player name. Your name. The name by which you are referred to. Whatever your name is, put it there under player name. After that is experience points. All level 1 characters start out with the big zilch. Nilch. Nothing. Zip. 0 experience points. Don't worry too much about it. The second you start playing, you'll start gaining XP. So now that we've filled out the top section, we're going to move on to the next section, which is the ability scores. Now, I talked extensively about these in last week's video, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to put your ability scores and modifiers in these boxes. We're going to move on to inspiration and proficiency bonus. Now, inspiration doesn't come up too often, but it's given out by the DM for role-playing your character particularly well, and it gives you advantage on an ability check or an attack roll that you make with your character. Proficiency bonus, on the other hand, is given out by your class. Most of the time it starts out as +2 and then goes up as you increase in level. Next, we're going to move on to our saving throws. The saving throws box is laid out much like your ability scores in that you have strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Now, according to your class, you're going to be proficient in certain saving throws. What you're going to do is you're going to fill in the bubbles next to the saving throws that you're proficient in. Then you're going to fill in your ability score modifier on the lines next to those abilities. If you filled in a bubble next to one, then you're also going to add your proficiency bonus to it. So if you have a +3 in dexterity and you're proficient in it, that becomes a +5. The next box is laid out very similar to saving throws, because this is your skills box. Just like with saving throws, you're going to bubble in next to the skills that you're proficient in and apply your proficiency bonus to those skills. Otherwise, you're going to reference each skill and see what ability it's based off of and put that modifier next to that skill. Now, once you get past your skill proficiencies, you're going to move on to a box called Other Proficiencies and Languages. Not all your proficiencies go on the skill chart, so you're going to have to write them down here. Those proficiencies are going to be with tools, armor, and weapons. You're also going to put down what languages your character speaks inside this box. Now, right above that box, you're going to see something called Passive Wisdom, Perception. This is basically your character's awareness of the general surroundings. The next block we're going to work with is your hit point block, which includes your armor class, your initiative, your speed, your current hit points, your temporary hit points if you have any, your hit dice, and your death save counter. Your armor class is going to be determined by whatever kind of armor you're wearing. Each armor has an armor class rating. Some armors allow you to add your dexterity modifier to their armor class rating in order to boost them up. Now, your initiative is also your dexterity modifier, so you just take your dexterity modifier and put it into your initiative. When your DM calls for you to roll initiative, you roll your d20, and you add your initiative to that roll. Your speed is determined by your race, and it's how many feet you can move during your turn in combat. Your current hit points is how many hit points your character has before he goes unconscious. Now, in there is also listed your maximum hit points, which is how many hit points your character has when he's at full health. Underneath that is your temporary hit points. Temporary hit points act as a kind of buffer that you can detract from before you have to start taking away from your current hit points. Hit dice are determined by your class, and it tells you the type and number of dice that you can roll during a short rest to gain some hit points. Lastly is your death save counter. You always hope you never have to use it, but if you do get knocked unconscious, this is where you start recording your death saves. The way death saves work is you roll the die. If the number's between 2 and 9, that's a fail. If the number's between 10 and 19, that's a success. If you roll a 1, that's 2 failed death saves. But if you roll a 20, you stop making death saves and get a hit point back. If you get 3 successes, you're stabilized. You don't have to make any more death saves. However, if you fail 3 times, your character is dead. Next up we have attacks and spellcasting. In this block you record the name of your weapon, what your attack bonus is, as well as how much and what type of damage your weapon deals. Now to figure out your attack bonus, the first thing you have to do is figure out whether you're proficient with the weapon. Look back under other proficiencies and languages and find out whether you're proficient with whatever weapon you're wielding. If you are proficient with the weapon, then you automatically add your proficiency bonus to your attack bonus. So your attack bonus becomes +2. Next you add one of your ability scores, and which one is determined by what kind of weapon it is. Once you determine which ability modifier you're using, add that to your proficiency, and that's how you get your attack bonus. How much and what type of damage determines what kind of die you roll for damage and what ability modifier you get to add to it. Now this block is used to list all the equipment that your character is carrying and any money that he's got on it. The small boxes on the left hand side of this block are for the money. The most commonly used currency is gold pieces, but the exchange rate is pretty simple. 100 copper pieces equals a gold piece, 10 silver pieces equals a gold piece, 2 electrum pieces equal a gold piece, and a platinum piece is worth 10 gold pieces. The next box you're going to fill out is features and traits. Now these are all the traits and features that you get from your race and your class. Features are things like favorite enemies and fighting styles. Traits are like dark vision, fey ancestry. No matter whether they're features or traits, they all get listed here. Now the final section of page 1 that you have to fill out are your characteristics. These are your personality traits, your ideals, your bonds, and your flaws. This information is all used for role-playing your character as you go along. Now we're ready to move on to page 2. The top of page 2 starts off much like the top of page 1. The first thing you gotta fill in is your character's name. So it's the same name that you filled into your character sheet on page 1. The next thing you're gonna fill out is your character's age, height, weight, eye color, skin color, and hair color. Once you're done with that, you're going to move on to your character's appearance. The character appearance box is where you can add a picture of your character if you're artistically inclined, or maybe if you've got a friend that's artistically inclined and wants to draw a picture for you, you can put it here. The box below character appearance is your character's backstory. Now of course your character's backstory is the story of where your character came from before they were an adventurer. The next box is called Allies and Organizations. Here you can list all the names of the other characters in your party, important NPCs, or any other characters that are considered your allies. The small box within this box is where you can put in your faction. The 5 factions that you get to choose from are the Harpers, the Order of the Gauntlet, the Emerald Enclave, the Lord's Alliance, and the Zentarum. For those of you who are wondering, Zentarum is the one that allows you to play a lawful evil character. Beneath Allies and Organizations, there's a box called Additional Features and Traits. If you run out of room on the first page for features and traits, you can continue the list on this page. Finally, the last box on page 2 is for treasure. Treasure are any valuable items that you don't want to list in your equipment because they have no real combat or adventuring purpose. Last but not least, we have page 3. If you're a spellcaster, all of your spells and spellcasting stats are listed on this page. The top of page 3 lists your spellcasting stats. First is your spellcasting class. Your spellcasting class is whatever class it is that allows you to cast spells. Next is your spellcasting ability. Whatever ability it is that your spellcasting is based upon, whether it be intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Next is your spell save DC. If your opponents roll higher than this number, they can negate the effects of your spells. The final item is your spell attack bonus. This is the attack bonus you use if a melee attack is required for your spell to hit. The rest of page 3 is laid out as follows. Your spell list is broken up by the spell's levels. Within each spell level, you have the amount of spell slots you have for that level, a space to record how many slots you've expended to use spells, as well as space to record names of spells you know. Next to each spell's name is a bubble that you can mark off for prepared. A lot of spellcasting classes require you to prepare a set of spells for a day. We'll cover more about spellcasting in a later video. Now we've showed you how to fill out your character sheet, we're going to take some time to answer some adventurer questions. Question number 1. What is that dragon behind you? That dragon would be Tiamat, the Queen of Evil Dragons. She's actually a minor goddess. In the current Adventurers League organized play season, we're actually playing the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, in which the Dragon Cult is attempting to release Tiamat from the 9 Hells and gain dominion over the earth. Needless to say, you're not taking her down until you've gained a few levels. Next question. What do you need to play Dungeons & Dragons? In truth, you only need 4 things to play Dungeons & Dragons. You need a set of dice, you need a character sheet, and you need a copy of the basic rules, which you can download for free off DungeonsandDragons.com. Now, if you feel so inclined, you could actually go down to your local gaming store and pick up a copy of the Player's Handbook, or you can pick up one of the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition starter sets. Now, the starter set is great because it comes with its own set of dice, pre-generated character sheets, a printed out copy of the basic rules, and its own adventure called The Lost Mines of Phandelver. Last question. Can you get horses in D&D? Well, what kind of adventurer would you be if you couldn't have a noble steed? Yes, your character can buy all kinds of mounts that you can use in your adventures. You can get camels, donkeys, mules, 3 different kinds of horses. You can even get an elephant. Once again, I hope you all liked this video. Please head over to Facebook, like my page, subscribe below, leave questions and things you'd like to see in future videos in the comments. You've been watching Once Upon a Tabletop. I am Max, Master of Dungeons. Remember to keep calm and roll initiative.